You've stared at the ceiling more nights than you care to admit. That quiet ache in your chest. It's not anxiety. It's recognition. The recognition that today was a copy-paste version of yesterday. That despite all the noise, nothing really moved. You went through the motions again, hoping something would change without you having to do anything uncomfortable. And now, here you are, again. Eyes open, heart heavy, mind spinning in silence. You feel it. Something's wrong. But you don't say it out loud, because saying it out loud makes it real. So you distract yourself. You scroll. You binge. You lie. I'll figure it out eventually. It's not the right time. I just need one more week, one more chance, one more sign. But here's something you're not going to like. Change doesn't show up politely. It doesn't arrive with soft music and gentle reassurance. Change is not a guest. Change is a break-in. It's violent. It's sudden. It kicks down the door, and it doesn't wait for permission. And unless you meet it with equal force, unless you choose to fight for it, it passes you by, and you stay stuck, numb, half alive, living a story that doesn't belong to you. If this hurts to hear, good, because pain has a purpose. It shows you where you're pretending. So let me ask you something. Are you ready to stop pretending? Are you finally willing to look in the mirror without flinching? Because tonight could be just another loop in the same dead-end routine. Or it could be the night everything starts. But only if you make a decision. Right here. Right now. You tell yourself you'll start tomorrow. That tomorrow you'll wake up earlier. That you'll finally go after what you really want. That you'll stop wasting time. Stop entertaining distractions. Stop making excuses. But you said that yesterday, too. And the day before. And maybe for weeks, months, even years. You've been planning to change, just not today. You see, tomorrow is the most seductive lie you'll ever believe. It lets you feel good without doing anything. It hands you a trophy for a race you haven't even run. But the truth is brutal. Tomorrow doesn't exist. It's a fantasy you invented to avoid the discomfort of now. The longer you wait for the perfect time, the more you train your mind to retreat when things get hard. And here's the sick twist. The longer you postpone action, the more you start to accept your current life as permanent. You start decorating the prison. You call it stability. You call it adulthood. You call it just how things are. But deep down, you know it's not any of those things. It's surrender. It's hiding. And every time you say, not yet, you're making a choice, a very real, very active decision to stay the same. You think you're stuck because of bad luck, or lack of time, or other people. But you're not stuck. You're comfortable. And comfort is the enemy you call a friend. Let me tell you something that will either break you or free you. You're not waiting for the right moment. You're avoiding responsibility. Because if you admitted that the power to change is in your hands, then you'd also have to admit that you've been wasting it. And that truth, that realization, it burns. But it also liberates. Because if you've been the one holding yourself back, then you can be the one to break the chains. Not tomorrow, tonight. Let's get one thing straight. You're not stuck. You're not cursed. You're not broken. You're not trapped in some invisible maze built by the universe. You're asleep, and that's worse. Because when you're asleep, you think the dream is real. You go to the same job, have the same conversations, feel the same frustration, but you don't question it because it feels normal. Wake up. This isn't normal. This is survival mode disguised as stability. You weren't born to survive your own life. You weren't meant to be a background character in your own story, nodding politely, smiling half-heartedly, numbing your soul with dopamine hits and shallow goals. But you've been on autopilot so long, you don't even remember what it feels like to choose your day instead of enduring it. You've accepted the script handed to you by your parents, by your fears, by society. And somewhere along the way, you forgot that you could rewrite it. You're not a tree. You're not rooted to this job, this town, this relationship, this version of yourself. You can move. You can change. You can burn the whole story down and start again. But you won't. Not as long as you keep pretending that this state of sleepwalking is someone else's fault. And here's the truth. Most people will never tell you. Nobody is coming to wake you up. There's no mystical alarm clock that rings when it's finally your time. There's no divine permission slip granting you access to your own life. If you want to wake up, you have to do it yourself. And waking up doesn't mean lighting incense and repeating affirmations. It means looking around, really looking, and realizing that almost everything you call life is just a collection of habits you never consciously chose. That should terrify you. And if it does, good. Because fear is what wakes you up. Your life is not a loop, unless you make it one. Every day, you walk through the same mental hallways, same thoughts, same fears, same stories playing in your head like reruns of a show you don't even like anymore. And yet, you keep watching. Why? Because it's easier to repeat than to rewrite. Easier to keep playing the role you've been cast in than to stand up, tear up the script, and become the director. But here's the truth that most people never confront. You are not the story you've been living. You are the storyteller. You are the one holding the pen. You just forgot you were allowed to use it. Maybe because no one ever told you. Or maybe because, deep down, you're afraid of what you'll write if it's truly you holding the pen this time. Not your past, not your guilt, not your parents' expectations, or society's checklist. Let me remind you of something powerful. The greatest directors, the Tarantinos of the world, didn't wait for someone to hand them a script. They wrote their own, and they wrote it with boldness, with flaws, with blood. That's what you need to do. Because right now, you're playing a character who's afraid to take the lead, afraid to break character, afraid to be seen rewriting the story while everyone else just acts out what they were told. But guess what? This isn't a rehearsal. You don't get to refilm the lost years. You don't get a second chance at the scenes you've let slip away. All you have is this version of the script, this blank page, this moment. So what are you going to do? Keep recycling the same tired dialogue? Or finally write something that scares you? Because it's honest. You're not waiting for a breakthrough. You're waiting for permission. And I'm telling you now, you don't need it. Tonight is yours. Pick up the pen. Let's stop pretending. You already know what's wrong. You know the habits draining you. You know the people poisoning your mind. You know the lies you tell yourself to make it all feel less painful. You're not confused. You're just not ready to be honest. Because honesty doesn't whisper. It doesn't sugarcoat. It cuts. And that's why most people never really change. Because the price of transformation isn't effort. It's truth. And truth doesn't come wrapped in comfort. It shows up at 2 a.m., uninvited, when the noise dies down, and you're left with nothing but your thoughts. And in that silence, you hear the echo of everything you've ignored. The time you wasted, the chances you didn't take, the life you were too scared to claim. That's why you avoid the silence. That's why you drown it in screens, noise, and endless distraction. Because you know, deep down, that the moment you face yourself without filters, you'll see everything. And it won't be pretty, but it will be real. Nietzsche said it best: become who you are. But before you do that, you have to know who you are without the mask. Not the version you present online. Not the one who smiles at family dinners and says, "I'm fine." The real you. The one you've been avoiding like a monster under the bed. And when you finally meet them, it's not fireworks. It's not epiphany. It's a quiet moment of devastation. Because you realize that the one holding the knife to your future was you. But here's where things change. That same hand can write something better. If, and only if, you stop lying to yourself. So here's your weapon. A pen, a page, and the guts to tell the truth, even when it makes you flinch. Don't write what sounds noble. Don't write what you hope is true. Write what's actually true, even if it hurts, especially if it hurts. Because that pain, that's the feeling of lies dying. There's a reason change doesn't happen in the middle of the day. You can't transform while you're surrounded by noise, digital, mental, emotional. You can't rewrite your life while being constantly interrupted by notifications, opinions, expectations. That's why night matters. Not because there's something magical in the moonlight, but because it's the only time the world shuts up. At night, the masks come off, the performances end, the distractions lose their power, and what's left is you, just you, unfiltered, unedited. And that's exactly why most people fear it. They fear being alone in the silence, not because it's empty, but because it's loud. Loud with truths they've buried. Loud with regrets they pretend aren't there. Loud with the voice they've been silencing for years. Their own. But that voice, the one that speaks only in solitude, is the only one that can save you. So use the night, not to scroll, not to numb yourself, but to meet yourself. Create a ritual, a sacred hour where the phone is off, the noise is gone, and it's just you and the page. Don't wait until you feel inspired. You won't. Don't wait until it feels good. It won't. But when the room is still, and you finally start writing the raw, uncensored truth, something inside you shifts. The lies lose power. The fear begins to bleed. The story starts to loosen. Because in solitude, you reclaim your authorship. You're not fighting the world anymore. You're facing the only enemy that ever really mattered, the one in the mirror. And that is where real change begins. Here's the mistake almost everyone makes. When they want to change, they start adding. More habits, more goals, more apps, more books, more noise. But real change doesn't start with adding. It starts with cutting. Before you build something new, you have to tear down what's rotten. Before you begin again, you have to end what's been holding you hostage. Think of your life like a film you've been directing blindly for years. Messy scenes, unfinished character arcs, repetitive lines. You want to make a masterpiece? Start with editing. What needs to go? That friendship that drains your energy? That habit that poisons your mind and body? That belief that tells you you're too late, too broken, too behind? Cut it. Not tomorrow. Not when it feels safe. Now. Because every day you don't, it eats more of your potential. It rewrites your story for you, one compromise at a time. Here's the harsh truth. No one posts about on self-help Instagram. You cannot grow if you're still feeding what's killing you. And cutting isn't glamorous. It's not aesthetic. It's not something you can romanticize with a filter and a latte. It's bloody. It's quiet. It's uncomfortable. But it's necessary. You want clarity. Don't wait for it to arrive. Create it by elimination. Write it down tonight. What has to go? Be ruthless. Be specific. Be honest. Not just what's missing from your life, but what's in it that's keeping you from moving forward. If you want to make space for something real, you have to burn what's fake. You don't need a master plan. You don't need a 5-year vision, a new planner, or a list of 10 life-changing habits. You don't need perfect clarity or cosmic alignment. You need a single act of war against your own inertia. One move, one decision, one shift, small but undeniable. Something that says, I'm not living like this anymore. Because change doesn't begin with an epiphany. It begins with a revolt, one that no one else will see or cheer for. It starts in silence, in private, with you choosing something uncomfortable over something familiar. That's the real battlefield. And make no mistake, it is a battle. It's you versus the weaker version of yourself. The one that wants to coast, to avoid, to sleep in just one more day. That version of you is not going to surrender easily. It knows your tricks. It knows your excuses. It is you. So you don't need more motivation. You need to strike. Not tomorrow. Not when it feels right. Tonight. Send a message to your brain that the war has begun. Lay out the workout gear. Delete the app. Block the number. Make the call. Cancel the subscription. Book the damn ticket. It doesn't have to be everything. It just has to be real. Something you can't take back in the morning. That's how you kill hesitation. That's how you wake yourself up. And no, it won't fix your life in one move. But it will do something far more important. It will prove to yourself that you are not a prisoner. Because every time you take bold action, you remind the world and yourself that you're the one writing this story. You think you're afraid of failing. You're not. Failure hurts, but it teaches. It humbles. It moves. Failure burns, but it builds. No, the thing that really terrifies you, the thing you don't want to name, is regret. The kind of regret that doesn't scream, the kind that whispers every night when the noise fades and the lights go out. The regret of time you'll never get back, of conversations you never had, of dreams you never touched because you were too busy being realistic, cautious, polite. And the most terrifying part? Regret arrives slowly, not with crash, but with a pattern. One postponed decision, one avoided conversation, one more day of telling yourself, I'll do it eventually. Then suddenly, a year is gone, then 5, then 10, and you wake up in a life that doesn't feel like yours, because it isn't. It's the one that happened when you stopped choosing. It's subtle, isn't it? There's no tragic movie ending, no epic breakdown, just a quiet, heavy realization. I waited too long. That's the real fear. Not of falling down, but of never jumping, of never seeing what was possible because you were too scared to try. So let's make this real. Close your eyes and imagine this. It's 10 years from now. Everything's the same. Same job, same doubts, same unspoken dreams, same version of you, just older. How does that feel? If that vision makes your chest tighten, your stomach turn, good. That's your signal. Not to panic, to act. Because regret is avoidable, but only if you stop waiting for life to change and start changing it yourself. Right now, let's kill the fantasy. There is no rescue mission, no mentor waiting in the wings, no guardian angel who's going to knock on your door with a detailed plan and just enough funding to change your life. No one is coming. Not because people don't care, not because the universe is cruel, but because the responsibility for your life isn't theirs. It never was. The truth is, The only person who has been with you in every moment, every choice, every silence, every breakdown is you. And that's not a tragedy. That's your power. Because if no one else is responsible for your life, then no one else gets to limit it either. You've been waiting for motivation, for clarity, for some invisible signal that says, now it's time. But here's what no one tells you. There is no signal. There's just now. And you either claim it or you don't. Most people never get this. They keep looking for signs, for someone to tell them it's okay to start. They want permission. Here it is. You don't need any. You don't need to be qualified. You don't need to be fearless. You don't need to be ready. You just need to stop waiting for someone to come fix what only you can face. Because the truth is brutal. If you don't take control of your story, someone else will write it for you. Society will. Fear will. Your past will. You'll end up living someone else's life and wondering why it never fit. So if you've been hoping for someone to show up and save you, look in the mirror. That's the hero. That's the author. That's the only one who can flip the page. Right now, in this exact moment, you are standing at a fork in your life. Two paths. And the difference between them is not as dramatic as you think. There's no storm, no explosion, no spotlight. The difference is quiet, subtle. It happens in the dark when no one's watching. Path one, you change nothing. You keep living by default. You keep repeating the same patterns, giving the same excuses, numbing the same pain. You stay on autopilot, surrounded by distractions, drifting through days that all blur together. And slowly, you decay. Not physically at first, but mentally, spiritually. Your ambition dries up. Your curiosity fades. You stop dreaming. You stop hoping. You shrink. Until one day, you realize you've become the exact thing you swore you'd never be. A ghost in your own story. Or path two, you decide. You decide that you are no longer available for mediocrity, that you will no longer let fear sit in the driver's seat, that from this moment forward, you are the author. Not someday, not when life feels easier, not when you have it all figured out. Now. And it doesn't require a massive overhaul, just one real decision, one move, one moment of truth that slices through the fog and says, I refuse to die with this story still inside me. So what's it going to be? Stay asleep or start writing? Pretend it doesn't matter, or admit this is your shot. You don't need more time. You don't need more certainty. You don't need more approval. You need to choose. Because every day you delay, you give your power to the world. And the world is happy to write your script for you, one silent surrender at a time. But if you've made it this far, if you're still here, listening, then maybe, just maybe, some part of you is done with waiting. If this hit something deep, don't ignore it. Don't scroll away. Don't promise yourself you'll think about it. Do something. Tonight. Grab a notebook. Face the truth. Write like your future depends on it, because it does. And if you're serious, drop this in the comments. I'm rewriting my story. Subscribe, but only if you're ready for the real work. No fluff, no comfort, just truth. Now go. No more excuses. Pick up the pen and start.